And welcome to today's segment of The Power of Money. I'm your host, Michelle Graves, where I have been airing this show for over 12 years on DATV, and it goes nationally in many, many markets, and which I'm deeply appreciative. As those of you know, I am committed to you and your family having the necessary information, resources to enable you to survive during these very challenging times. I said that 12 years ago. It has not changed. In fact, I think today we're looking at some of the most difficult times our country has ever experienced, and you as a family have ever endured. But again, consistent with my agenda of empowering you with information, things you didn't know, today's show is no exception. I'm going to be talking about, are you hemorrhaging? Financially, that is. Although it feels the same, which is the loss of blood is not much different than the loss of money. And believe me, it can come at the most challenging times, but we're going to deep dive into this issue today to help you to look at your life more critically and more openly. Again, there's no judge or jury. This is your life. But I am going to give you tips, thoughts, and things that you can do to begin to improve your situation. Because my prediction for 2024, and 2025, regardless of who is on the scene politically, you and your family have to survive. You cannot depend upon anybody else to write checks for you. It's a nice thought. Maybe. I tell people that level of dependency is absolutely frightening. I don't want to be dependent upon anybody to take care of me and my family. That's pushing it a little bit too deep. It's enough taking care of them on your own. But we're going to talk about today, the subject today, whether you're washing dishes or whether you're on the job site listening to the show, through YouTube or whatever venue you're using to watch what I'm sharing with. You want to listen attentively because I'm going to share with you some strategies and some things that you can do immediately to stop the hemorrhaging for your family. Now, there are some things that this show is not going to address because I don't have enough information to be open with you about my opinion. But for most of the things I'm going to share with you, it's going to prove to be helpful. Question: are you having trouble meeting your obligations? Just be honest. Say to yourself, if you're not having trouble, then the information I'm going to give you may not be appropriate for your situation. But according to the data, most Americans, I think they said over 70%, that's a lot, are having some challenges right now. So let's look at it. We're going to first talk about your budget. What is a budget? It's just a fancy term that means you're looking at what you're bringing in and what you're paying out. That's your budget. Everybody has one, whether you know what it looks like or not. Everyone has an itemization in their brain, if not on paper, of what you owe and what you are paying out every month. Typically, it's based upon you're looking at all of your sources of income. That would be on an after-tax basis, what you're getting in your check. If you're working and you have a wife, add hers in as well. Children contributing, add them in as well. But that gives you, for your budget, your total income. And that's after tax, not pre-tax, because pre-tax would tend to inflate your final figures. But let's look at what your budget is. And let's start with what kind of money is coming in. So add in all of your income, add in any kind of money you're getting from dividends if you have stocks and bonds, looking at any kind of returns you're getting, all of those you aggregate, and that should give you a feel for your monthly income. Now, I don't care whether you are receiving some form of government subsidization, or you're receiving a regular check, or you're self-employed and you're getting money, net taxes. We all have a budget. All of us do. Now, what happens to that money is everything. Everything. Because, and I'm going to get into that, we now have income, but then we're going to flip over and deal with your expenses. But we need to have income first. And again, as I said, according to government data, 70% of Americans are having a real challenge right now. Real challenge. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, because money does not have an opinion, but money does have an impact. So we're looking at impact. I'm not going to judge you as to how you spend your money. I'm grown, you're grown, you got to do what you have to do. But it's very helpful to know how you're spending your money and why, and what can be done to change the picture for your family. So we're going to aggregate all sources of income, all sources, legal, illegal, I don't care. Let's just categorize them and itemize them as a total so you know what you're looking at. That's the first step. The second step, and this is where it gets really tricky, is to itemize all your monthly expenses. Now, that's even for bills that you only pay every 6 months, divided by 6 months, and that gives you your monthly that you should be allocating in your account. That might include your homeowner's insurance, it might include your car insurance, it might include your life insurance, whatever your expenses are, if they're paid like twice a year, again, divided to come up with a monthly, and that becomes a part of your monthly expenses. So you don't have sticker shock, and so you are already prepared to pay that bill when it comes due. Okay, a lot of us scramble because we didn't allocate, and now it's due. And if you're on automatic withdrawal, you're in a panic for real, because you're like, oh my gosh, they're going to take this huge lump sum, and I don't have enough extra money. Well, if that sounds like you, we're going to change the story, and you're going to divide that into monthly payments, and you're going to put that in your expense category so you know what you're actually spending. Okay, so I'm going to give you that one caveat as we move forward. Now, under your expenses, what are your normal and typical expenses? Again, everybody's budget is different. I've been doing budgets for 40 years, and I've not found any family that mirrors another family. Everybody deals with this differently, but there are several key things that you want to be aware of. And first is to make sure it is accurate, that it is recurring, meaning every month. So that's budgeted, that's right there, you know. Okay, if you're paying for a credit card bill and you, again, under your monthly expense, I need you to put down the minimum required. Now, you may pay more, but for purposes of training and education, I want you to write down the minimum. Reason being, based upon what your expenses look like after income, you may have extra money that you can put toward your credit card expense. And pray God you do, because as I've shared earlier, the interest rates on retail credit cards is now 34.99. Did you hear me? Did you hear me? 34.99% is the APR. That is outrageous, but it's quite legal. So my admonition to all of you is that if you have any of the major cards, retail, Macy's, Kohl's, Nordstrom's, Dillard's, all these retailers, you got a letter. Yes, you did, about 6 weeks ago, stating what your interest rate was moving forward, okay? if you can pay it off, but not until you have completed your allocation of expenses. So let's just go back a little, and then we're going to play catch up. The first and most significant bill under your monthly expenses is going to be your rent or your mortgage or your land contract, all of it dealing with real estate. You have to have a place to live, and that's called housing. So put down under the category of housing what you are paying either to the landlord or to the bank or to the mortgage company. Put that down. Okay, put it down, because you need to, and then look at it. Yeah, look at it. And then under your notes, under housing, make a comment. Okay, it can be on a different piece of paper, whether your lease adjusts yearly, every 2 years, every 3 years. Put down the terms of the contract under housing. If it's a mortgage, it's definitely a contract. You need to know if it's fixed, what the interest rate is, or if it's variable, and what the current interest rate is, and whether it changes. You need that as your personal notes under that category, housing. Housing expenses in the United States are off the chain. I can't say anything good about it, because in major markets, it's always been horrible. New York has never been normal. But when you have municipalities and communities like where I live, which is Cincinnati, Ohio, which was always a low rent area, to find that your rent has gone from $650 for a 2-bedroom to, say, $1,800 for the same 2-bedroom, with the possibility of it increasing every year. Now that's significant. And I just read an article that said that Cincinnati was one of the top 6 cities in the United States that experienced this blowout in rents. Okay, now that includes going higher. Is that obscene to me? Yes, it is, because the city's never had that type of history. But we're in changing times, and until politicians make a decision, and you're the one that's going to have to put their feet to the fire, that we're not going to deal with this. You're going to have to put caps on. You're going to have to do some stuff, okay? And if they are going to charge me that, they better be good landlords, meaning fix everything on a dime. Fix it before it's a problem, okay? Because that's a lot of money to pay to someone who is not a family member. Now, if you have the fortunate grace to be renting from a family member, and there are not that many, but if you are in that situation, well, that's just wonderful, because at least the money is going to help a family member. And prayerfully, they won't be a pig and charge you through the roof for a residence. Are they common? No. If you're one of those, again, the blessing is that it's going to a family member and not to a stranger who's only interested in collecting your rent. Okay? Serious stuff right now. But put that down and make a note that you've reviewed the terms. Okay? All contracts dealing with land have terms, and you want to know what they are. You say, well, I've never looked at it. Well, now's the time to look at it, so you don't have shock. Okay, it's like I said about the retailers in 34.99, and the number of people that didn't even open up their mail to look at it. And I'm like, well, that suits them fine, because ignorance is bliss. And that's what they're looking at, which is, well, dummy, I'm gonna get you. Okay, so you have your housing, most important. For those of you that have mortgages, you also want to add in your escrow for your taxes and your homeowners. Now, if you're fortunate enough to have a contract that allows them to put that in your monthly payment, then you don't have to scramble around trying to figure out if it's in my expenses. It's already built into the contract. Some lenders do and some lenders don't. But you do need to know what the amount is. And if you say, well, I don't think that's correct, call the county. Call the county, pick up the phone with your hand, your hand, dial, and they'll tell you. They will. They'll tell you. They'll also tell you when they received the last payment. Okay. Usually on an escrowed account, it'll come directly from the lender to them. You won't have to be involved. But for the millions of you that do have to be involved, you better know what your real estate tax bill looks like predictably, and then that becomes a part of your expenses. If they collect taxes every 6 months, same rule. Find out what the tax is and then factor it into your budget. Now, if you're in a state that honors the tax exemption because of your age, well, that's great news. If you haven't taken advantage of it, you need to scuttle on down to the real estate division of the county and get your homestead tax exemption paperwork in order and submit it so that they can eliminate or waive the huge expenses associated with your taxes. Again, you have to be the property owner. It does not include investment property. It includes your property. And fill out some paperwork, turn in the documentation. They review it. And then if you're exempt, that's a nice expense to not have to be saddled with. Don't you think? Okay. If you're having say you didn't do a tax exemption. I don't know why you didn't do it, because real estate taxes are a primary way for you to lose your home. Did you know that? The government liens, in terms of priority of collection, supersede your local. Now, the IRS supersedes everybody. So if you got tax liens on your property, you need to deal with them first. Because they take no prisoners. None. But if that's not an issue and you're behind on your regular taxes, don't ride and hide in a corner. Talk to them and see if you can make payment arrangements. Really important. Why? Because they have the ability to take your property. And they do it every day. They do it for investment property. They do abandoned property, commercial property. But for purposes of this show and you as a consumer, you want to be on top with all of this. So we're still dealing with category 1, which is your housing expense. And I'm giving all this add-on information that you may not know, okay? By the way, there is no grace extended for people who deliberately do not pay their taxes on their real estate. They're patient, but it is a fact that they will put your property in the paper and auction it off. Okay? If you have a mortgage and you haven't paid your taxes, they will notify the mortgage lender, and then the mortgage lender, this is what they do, they'll pay the tax, and then they'll assess it to your monthly payment. Yeah. They're not going to lose their property because of your negligence. They'll work it out. And I'm saying to you, if you're in this situation, now is the time to sit down with your family, particularly if they're living with you, and decide how much money we're going to begin paying immediately to play catch up on the arrearage. They will make payment arrangements. This is a problem for a lot of people. Taxes have been reassessed because property values have gone up, and what was a small tax is now a significant tax. You can always challenge, by the way, this is America, you can always challenge the assessment. But you better have your act in order, and you need to contact them and they'll tell you the procedure. They are in business because of you. You need not fear them. You need to find out the process and what is involved and what you have to do. Many times they're going to want an appraisal to reflect value. And if they overvalued and you have a legitimate appraisal, you'll go to a hearing, you'll present your information, they will review the facts and they'll get back with you. Many people have had their assessments lowered. And many people, unfortunately, have had their assessment increase or stay at what it was when the county did it to begin with. It's a chance you take, but I'm just giving you what is available. And again, you can call the county and they will tell you exactly what I've just told you. Okay? So that's under housing. So you've taken care of that. We've got a lot of add-ons. Now, with renters, man, renters don't get a break in America. They don't. But you can make sure that the contract is valid and that the landlord makes the improvements and the repairs as per the contract. If not, you can consider withholding rent. But it's got to be done by the rules. You got to set up a bank account. It's got to be up under escrow. And if it persists, then you may have to take that buzzard to court and let the court adjudicate on it. Okay? But if it's just a place you're renting, apartment or a home, and everything is by the rules and they're enforcing the contract, just make sure that you enforce their portion. If they're supposed to do things and you're paying rent on time, then you make sure you send them a notice that this has to be fixed in X number of days, or else you'll have to be forced to take other steps. Now, landlords, and it's an unsavory name because people say, but sorry, most of America is landlord driven. All these huge malls and stuff all have landlords. They do. Most of your shopping, they have landlords. It may be an insurance company, they're big boys. And they loan the money to do this mall, they're the landlords. The tenants in the mall have to pay them. Okay? If you're in a mall where they don't take care of things, that's a different consideration. I'm not going to devote this show to that. We're talking about landlords, and that is they're the lord of the land. That's what it means, landlord. So, your rights are not that great, but majority of Americans do landlords at some point in their life. Many young people before they buy a home. And so you progress from a rental landlord to a bank landlord or a mortgage servicer landlord or the U.S. government, which is a huge landlord under FHA and the two private entities, Freddie and Fannie. Yeah. And if you have a reverse mortgage, they're your landlord under HUD. That's another federal agency. So landlords are what makes this country get along and get ahead, but make sure it's in your budget as a not negotiable. You do not want to pay late, ever. You don't want to do it. If you don't have the means, you better figure that out. You got family, you may have to get other additional employment. You may have to do some things on your own, okay, to raise money to pay the mortgage or the rent. Now, during COVID, many renters were given a reprieve because the economy had come to a screeching halt and people didn't have jobs and everybody was at home. So there were legislative considerations where people did not have to pay their rent. It didn't mean it was absolved. It meant that you were not responsible for making those payments during the COVID crisis. Okay? I mean, COVID was just horrible. And sadly, it's back. And this version, this variant, is worse than the first one. So I'm saying to you, given all of the things that are happening globally and nationally, I don't know if they'll give you a break. But I'm saying to you that your first priority is always your mortgage, and you need to be very open with your family and your children. All hands on deck, as the Navy says, which is, listen up, this is what we're facing as a family. Please do not take the burden of the family on yourself alone. Your children need to know what this looks like, and they also need to know what a budget looks like, because we got young people out here that are clueless. They'll pay money for a video game or that experience rather than contribute to the well-being of the household. And why? Because you're letting them do it. You've not sat down and showed them what this feels like. And they say, well, I don't want to contribute. That means you don't plan on living here. Okay? Because right now, we gotta play team. We gotta do team. You don't want to be a part of the team? That's fine. Go outside the home, get your place, get it together. But this is how we're going to be playing it in 2024 and 25. Okay? Now, if you don't have children and it's just you, single, male, female, then you're going to have to be even more crisis-driven and look at every possible resource that you can scale back on so that you can at least cover your rent. Now, under the excuse me, please. Under the subject of rent, we still have to deal with all of the things that go along with it, because with consumers, it's very rare to find what we call a triple net lease, which means you don't have to pay for anything other than a lump sum for your rent. That means you don't have to pay gas and electric together or separate. You don't have to pay water. You don't have to pay the garbage collection. You don't have to pay for the paraphernalia in the house, including Wi-Fi. Those are all included in a full lease, but because you are paying what's known as a triple net, which is the landlord gets that, and the other is on you. Now, some landlords will pay the gas and electric, but do not hold your breath, and some landlords even gracious enough to pay the trash bill. Don't count on it. Count on it looking at you. So, again, you don't want to put them under the housing. We're going to talk about a separate category quickly, which lists all of those, okay? So you go from your housing expense. And so what is the next major expense facing most people under a regular recurrent bill? Okay, let's talk about your credit cards. Yeah, the devil is a plastic card. And you need to put down, like I said, the minimum. That's your second category, okay? I say that right up under the mortgage because the reality is that if you don't pay the minimum on your credit card, the card will eventually go into collection status and you will experience the true American way, which is a collection agency, or the person that has the card will call you all the time, nonstop, until you get that worked out. And never have I seen people's blood pressure go through the roof like I've seen when people have to deal with collection agencies. And if you don't respond to the collection agency, you will find yourself getting a summons to the court as they prepare to garnish your wages. Now, not all wages are garnishable. People that are on Social Security disability will find that they can skirt around it. but everybody else is game, okay? And you'll find that what you started out owing is much higher because of fees, because of processing, blah, 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 attorneys. They all dump their stuff on too, which is why I say if you can make the minimum, do it, because it will help. And in the meantime, you'll have a breather to determine what you're going to do to get that bill off your back. Now, I don't care, and you need to know this, you're talking to a woman who has been in banking, economics, finance for over 40 years. I did all my undergraduate work on economic systems throughout the world. I know what the communists do. I know what the socialists do. And I know what the daggone capitalists do too. Excuse daggone, because I'm from Kentucky. Yeah, I know what they do too. And the capitalist system depends on you spending your hard-earned money to pay them something known as debt. They want you in debt because it keeps them on life support. Now, it doesn't matter if you're half dead and hanging out the window, they keep it real because capitalism, and I didn't say America, I said capitalism is the fundamental core of this country. We have to pay the Chinese interest, even though they're communists, because they purchased our capitalist debt, and interest is attached to it. Incidentally, interest is the assessment for you not having the money to pay for it cash. And guess what interest does? It just grows. It compounds. It compounds. It just gets bigger. So it doesn't matter how you feel about a thing. The United States and any other country that holds to the capitalist form of business, including England, Canada, France, and others, this is how they do it, okay? So you need to be aware of what it looks like and how it plays out in your field, and why my position on everybody, no exceptions, because I've seen the dark side, and I'm looking at the dark side with our nation, $36 trillion of debt. That's the dark side. And interest compounding on that, like clockwork, tick, 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 tick. You can even look it up on Google. They'll show you how much you're paying in the milliseconds. Oh, it's enlightening. It'll scare you to death. Don't do it before bedtime. But you want to know we're a nation of integrity because we pay our bills, and it doesn't matter whose back it comes off of. So the more you spend, all right, the more you spend at the retail store, the money that they make from you, that profit is used to pay for taxes, for stockholders, and other things. Meaning, we, as I tell people over and over and over again, they said, well, we don't have any gold. I said, yes, you do. We're the gold. Yes. The purchasing power of the United States citizenry is so powerful that they take our credit with no credit because we're the gold. They know as long as we're paying taxes and spending money that we can meet our debt, period. Print more money? Sure, why not? We need it, and we got ways to pay it, namely the American citizenry. Now that really, oh, you want to rile me up, you want to make me mad. How do we get in this debt? We got the United States government has a budget too. It's public. We're citizenry. You can go to the website and you will see where all this debt came from. And then my God, all that money to cover us for COVID, all the money we spent to keep people from being broke and penniless. We were on the verge of an economic collapse. Yeah, we printed money. Now we're printing money to pay our bills. Okay, counting on the American gold, which is the American citizenry. Paying our taxes, working every day, and spending every dime we make. Now, may I postulate a possible outcome? Okay? Because at the point your expenses exceed your income, that's called operating in the red, and bankruptcy to follow. Plays out every day in the federal courts. Yeah, bankruptcy is a federal proceeding, not your local yokels. So let's move on, okay? So you've gone through your mortgage. Now the next thing we have to deal with that had better be, as I said, your retail. And you put a star by that because you are going to put a freeze on your spending. All dollars saved, you can get a big fat piggy bank, and everybody can start saving in the piggy bank. You're going to find out how much money you really do spend on stuff. You can't even give the stuff away. Clothing has very little value today. Okay? It just doesn't. What do you have to get off of television and Facebook and TikTok? All this stuff. Oh, I need a longer set of lashes. Heck, you can't see now. Oh, I need something to make me more beautiful. Really? Really? What's going to make you more income? Okay? And please, look at it for what it is, because it's a marketing machine to tantalize and make you spend more money that you don't have. Okay? And drive you crazy. Which depression and stress is at an all-time high. And I'm going to tell you why. Because people are looking at their bank accounts, they're looking at their credit card bills, they're looking at uncertain such as your mortgage and your rent, and they're scared. Yeah, but don't be scared. Let's get the facts, let's get the data, and let's move on. So, I put credit cards right up there with your mortgage because the consequence is so bad. Underneath credit cards and those expenses, you're going to put your, every 6 months, you're going to put that in that category. Homeowners, car insurance, health insurance. Oh, did I tell you about health insurance? My. Is not that a biggie? Will that not break your bank? Look at your health insurance provisions from your employer. And then look at what you need to do and not do. Okay? If you are on Medicaid, I don't have to tell you, your health costs should be negligible because the government, state and federal, are paying the tab. Okay? If you've not thought about Medicaid, because that's welfare, if you're eligible, get it. Okay? If you're eligible, get it. It'll help. All right? So let's move on down. So I've now convinced you to call Job and Family Services if your income is not that great and try to get help. Particularly seniors. Stop trying to live like you're in your 40s. And that includes shopping and spending and eating out. I've never seen so many seniors eating out. How can you do this? Tell me how can you afford this? And I've done the math. At $400 a week to spend on food that's going in your tummy and out in an hour, in my opinion, is excessive. Okay? When do you think time's going to run out on your money? Sooner than you think. Stop eating out. Please. Stay at home and cook your food. And on the subject of food, under your budget and things that you should know, if you haven't taken advantage of food banks yet, unless you're among the rich and the wealthy, but you're just a middle class guy or gal scrounging or poor, check them out. They're all over, churches, everything. Don't bring your kids, please, or grandkids, please. And you will find lots of food that is available at no cost to you. A fact. You will find this. So be aware and take advantage. Food is right up there with rent. In fact, sometimes I think it's more important than rent, because national revolutions all over the world have occurred because of food famine. People don't have food. Over here, we throw it away. Stop being in the league that eats out and throws food away. Check out your food banks and cook from home, and make extra meals to sell to single men who don't cook, and will buy a platter for you for $10 or $15. You say, well, $10 isn't a lot. $10 is a lot when you start adding. If you cook 4 meals a day from excess food that you didn't pay for, that's $40 a day times 5 days a week is $200 in cash that you did not have. And the $200 can be used to pay off your credit card bill that you're drowning in, or to prepay some other bills. So $200 a week times 4 weeks is $800 a month. You want to talk about making a change in your budget, $800 a month will go a long way. And that's from you doing what you do anyway. For real. Doing what you do anyway. Cooking home-cooked meals, safe, healthy, prayerfully, and you're making extra money, and cash is king. That's another thing. Put over the very top of your budget. In lean times, cash is king. And there's a lot of things that people will do if it's on a cash basis. If you know how to clean gutters, $150 cash. Right. That's what people are paying, and more depending upon the size of the house. Now, if you live in an apartment building, not your problem, but a lot of people don't. And I'm just giving you things, again, that can make you see things a little differently. Pay the boys in the neighborhood to cut your grass, and stop using a lawn care company to do it. Grass is such a waste when you think about it. You can't eat it. All you can do is water it, and it looks pretty if it's taken care of. Otherwise, with 100 degrees temperature, it's patchy, and no amount of fertilizer is going to change that. The grass is burning up. Okay? So, back to the food thing. Circle back. If you don't know how much money you're spending on food, that's where you're hemorrhaging. Most people are hemorrhaging because they spend too much money on food, and they spend it in restaurants. And the typical tab is going to be about $45. Now, if you got children, it may be more, but the reality is that $45, and you're plopping that down every single day, or you're living on leftovers the second day. So 3 days a week, you're spending $45 to take care of your tummy. No, I need to send you to a good clinical psychologist that can help you to unroot the cause of you willing to do this to yourself. All of us, Americans, are known to be grossly obese, income insensitive, which is I'll spend until I don't have any more. But that's not you, because you want to do better, and I'm going to tell you how. I'm giving you some tips. You tally all of your expenses, and then you go bare bones. I've given you the top ones that are musts. And then you have discretionary. And if you're a tither, you put that tithe amount at the top, along with your housing. It's important, gives you value. But if you're just like everybody else, which is the other expenses, make sure you list those out too. Now, the other category are things that you may very well have to draw a line through and say, I'm not doing it anymore. If you're not a friend of Dollar Tree, become a friend of Dollar Tree or Family General or Become a friend. Why? Because they sell seconds. Those are products that the manufacturer does not send to the top of the line, grocery stores, etc. And so you can find at the Dollar Tree, etc., toilet paper, Reynolds Wrap, your everydays, and a whole lot of other stuff. All right? That is as cheap as you're going to get it. Okay? That's what we do. So, when you tally all your expenses, when you've gone through who I'm putting a line through, then you come up with income minus expenses gives you a total available called discretionary. Now, discretionary income is not really discretionary because out of that overflow, you've got to set up an escrow account or an emergency account and decide what is best for you. If you have $400 a month discretionary income, okay, I would personally allocate most of it to paying off my credit card. That's what I would do. And then I would set aside some for emergencies like car repair, tires, that type of thing. And then out of the 400, if you can set aside 100 for emergency for yourself, because stuff does happen. And before I go any further, because I'm getting ready to go off the air, stop volunteering to pay for your family's funeral expenses like you have money. I'm not saying don't contribute, but I would not be the funder because life insurance is available every single day. And how the heck they were able to get through life and not pay a penny toward their own death, I don't know. But I'm saying for you, you're not going to be the big Charlie because you don't have it. And you can tell them openly, well, we thought you had money. Well, you thought wrong. You thought wrong. And the money I do have, I got to take care of my immediate family. I got stuff. But I love y'all, and I sure will be there for the funeral, and you can count on me to bring a dish, okay? But in terms of the funding, nah, that's your family. Y'all got to work that out. So, I hope you all have enjoyed this presentation on Are You Hemorrhaging? And some very practical how-tos on how to get your life under control. And in this coming year, 24, 25, you're gonna feel it, okay? I don't care what the rich are doing. That's not you. I don't care what the wealthy are doing. You're not Elon Musk. You're you, and you have value, and now you're gonna live by the things that work for you. And I thank you so much for allowing me to share this information freely, as I always have, and thank all of you for your listening in and your watching and giving me feedback. I love it. And yes, nothing changes, because I really am like this. I'm going to see you all through this. And God willing, He's going to use me to make it happen. You take care. I love you, and bye-bye.